You're right, lads. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to replicate this effect right here. So the effect is effectively just it's as if I'm using a computer. It's actually a lot simpler than you may think, and I'm making this because I said I would about a month ago, and I'm only just getting around to it. So let's get straight into how to actually do it. So the first thing you're going to want to do in your project, if you are just following along and you obviously don't already have all these set up, is you're going to want to add a new HUD screen. This is what's going to basically be the computer base, and we can work from there. So once you are in the HUD screen editor, this is basically how the effect is done. The background for the computer is actually just an image. It's all smoke and mirrors. So I'm going to provide in the description the Photoshop template that I made for this project in particular, as you know, I don't mind giving that one away as a freebie. I'm not sure I can necessarily give any tips on how to design this yourself. I kind of just, obviously I'm going for a Windows XP look, and I do have some experience in Photoshop, so I'm not sure I can necessarily do a tutorial on how to make it, but I can provide you with one that I made. So I'm just scaling it down here, and this is important because if you use this template or you make your own, if you scale this down, you need to remember that, because you're going to have to scale down everything, which will make more sense in a moment. So I'm just going to scale this down a tiny bit, and I'm going to center it. So now that's on the screen, you can see that there are no buttons here. Those are literally just actual buttons that we're going to add in. So I'm just going to use the ones that I've already got in my project here. So the button image regular is going to just be obviously the button image, and then button image highlighted is going to be this pressed one, which again is going to be in the that PSD file that I'm going to give you guys. Just put this right here. Again, I literally forgot to scale it after telling you guys you need to scale everything the same. I'm messing it up myself. So once you have this button placed on your taskbar, wherever you want it to be, you can see it's coming together. So then let's make the next HUD screen. And I suppose I can show you guys the PSD really quickly. Basically what you're going to have is the Windows buttons PSD and the Windows desktop PSD. This is the buttons one, and this is where you're going to make your buttons, and this is the desktop where you're going to make the desktop. Okay, so we actually don't need the journal text or the button at all, because the button is over here. We're going to add the button as a button in the game. It doesn't need to be in the desktop. So this is all well and good. I can just, that's fine. You can export this for just the desktop on its own. That's what I was using in my game, the blank desktop where I can add the buttons. And then if you wanted to add a tab, those are hidden right here in the form of the lorem ipsum, layer 2, journal, and the tab. So bang, we have managed to fully create an entire tab. You can choose to have this text, not have this text, have the tab, rename the tab, whatever. And if you want to just have the tab on its own, just go ahead and hide those respective parts, just like that. And then you can just export this and overlay that image, and then have a way more modular system. If you ever need to go back and change some of the writing or whatever, you can just come here, change the writing, and change the image, rather than having to fully replace everything. And for the button's quite simple. We have this button on top is the unpressed button, and the button below is the pressed button. So you can basically just change this text right here to whatever you want, photos, whatever you need it for, and then just export this, hide this, and then export that, and then you've got both buttons. Okay, so I'm just editing this, and I realized that when I was filming it, I didn't really know how I was going to structure it, but I've now shown you how to do the Photoshop stuff. Now we're going to go back to making the second HUD screen, which was something that I previously hadn't actually just said, so it was a little bit confusing. Yes, we're doing the second HUD screen now. We need to set up our second screen. So again, we're going to use the same desktop. We're going to scale it to 75, and we're just going to dead center it. Going to add in our button again. And yeah, make sure it's all just exactly the same as the previous screen. And again, making sure to scale that. And just temporarily here, like I say, I'm showing you guys something that I struggled with. So we're going to put the button in the same place. I'm not sure I've done that perfectly here, but that is something you need to do if you don't want the buttons to be kind of jumping around a little bit as you switch screens. So now on this screen, we're going to add another image that is going to be the journal window tab. I started doing it this way instead of this way that you see here because this is just much more modular. I find that this way I can change what this text says if and when I need to. So here we go. Now that I've got that second screen set up, I just want to take a mental note of the number. So that's HUD screen 9. We're going to make it so this button's action is going to HUD screen 9, and you can add a mouse click sound effect if you'd like. That is what I did for my game. One other thing is once you're actually clicked on the journal screen, I like to have both buttons be the pressed variant just to kind of show that you're already clicked on this tab, and this button can just do nothing. It doesn't actually need to do anything. So yeah, so that's basically the journal HUD complete, apart from one thing. There's actually no way to close the HUD. I found there is actually, I guess you'd call it a bug at the minute, where if you press escape to try and like close the HUD, it'll pause the game, and then when you unpause the game, the HUD will be gone, but you won't be able to interact with the computer again. So we basically need to add in our own way to close the HUD from within the HUD. So for that, I'm pretty sure somewhere I've got this exit button and exit button hover, and I'll obviously be providing this as well. And we'll just put that right there. And now for this button, you are going to want to have the action to return button ID to Lua. That basically just means that this button is being controlled by the behavior on the computer. So there is one more thing we need to do in this journal screen, and that is to give the button a name, and I'm going to call it close one. Go to text color and just drop the transparency all the way down to 0. This way, for me, works, and it just causes less problems. So there you go. Another thing is these buttons aren't actually, they're offset slightly lower than they appear. So this here is actually here once you're in the game. I'm not sure why this is, what's causing this. All I can suggest is to bring the button up, and then hopefully in game it will line up perfectly on that taskbar. So that's what I'm going to do here. So if you're wondering why they're not actually in the right places, that is why. So then this one, I'm just going to bring it up to here. So there we go. We don't need to name this button because this button is not controlled by Lua, so it does not need to be kind of variabilized, I guess is probably not the word. But there we go. So now we've got everything we need. We have the journal on the screen, the button showing where we just came from, and we have a way to close the HUD without glitching out the entire thing. So again, over here, we also need to just move these buttons up. you might not need to do this, but I need to do this because, like I say, in the actual game, those buttons are offset. So let's jump in and set up the behavior. So now that we've got all these HUDs set up, you're just going to want to take a mental note of your initial HUD screen. So that for me now is HUD screen 8, and that'll come in a moment. So now that we're in, we're going to place in our computer, which is here, but I already have this set up, so I'm actually just going to put it on this desk. And we are going to want to add the HUD Interface behavior by the wonderful Necrim. And here it is. So the HUD screen number that we just took a note of, that initial screen, is what we're going to want to put right here. That's HUD screen 8. This is the text that shows up when you look at the desk. So I personally prefer interact. And all these fields are super daunting, but those are for functions that we're not going to have to use in this video. I will link to Blood Moon Interactive's video on this behavior as a whole, and he will show you more things you can do, you know, with all this stuff. Alright, so now all we basically need to do is set up the that button that we made so that it actually closes the HUD once we interact with it. So in the HUD button 1, that's where I'm going to put this, we need to reference the button. We called it close 1, and then we need to make the action exit HUD, and we can remove the text because I wouldn't say it's necessary. And just like that, this is effectively done. Now the thing is, it's not going to be perfect because I've not gone in and really tweaked it. You have to make sure that oh, okay, so I've left the physics on the desk, so the desk is running away. We'll just ignore that. One thing you have to keep in mind is these buttons aren't going to perfectly line up. You're going to have to trial and error that if you do have this weird offsetting issue that I seem to have. So now we are in the journal screen, and we should, boom, there we go, we can press escape and leave. So this process effectively becomes rinse and repeat. So to make a second tab, it's basically more of the same. Let's just imagine this is our tutorial one. We already set up this journal one, we already set up this screen. So the only things we need to do is come back to our initial screen that we made that's just the desktop, and we need to add a second button that says, you know, whatever, photos, music, you know, whatever, and have it next to it just like this, and then we can have the choice. And all you need to do is add a second HUD screen, or I guess a third HUD screen, and just make it so when you click this button it opens HUD screen, you know, whatever, 10, 9, you know, it doesn't matter. So like I say, it is quite tedious, but eventually you'll end up with this full system where once you click journal you end up here, and from here you can click photos, which will take you to here. And again, it's just a case of making sure these buttons are all lined up. Like I say, this might not be a problem for you, it's a bit of a weird one. And again, if you're pressing your exit button and it's not working, just make sure that you have return button ID to Lua as your action for the button. Hopefully I've managed to somehow form this garbled mess into a coherent video, and it helps you. If it doesn't, if I've not explained something well enough, go ahead and join the GameGuru Max Discord, which I'll put in the description. Find me in there, it's Ando, and just shoot me a DM and say like, bro, come on, how do I do this? As far as I know, I've got everything basically shown there. The main tedium comes from actually trying to line up these buttons so it doesn't so they don't move around as you're clicking them. But yeah, apart from that, that's hopefully a wrap. If you want to see maybe more random GameGuru Max tutorials, just let me know. If there's any other functions I used that you're interested in, yeah, just let me know.